The Grandeur at Peachtree was everything Brianna Collins had ever dreamed of. 150 guests. 12-foot floral arrangements made entirely of white roses and eucalyptus. A chandelier above the dance floor that cost more than most people's first homes. Champagne that had been flown in from a vineyard in Bordeaux, France. A wedding cake that took 4 days and 3 pastry chefs to build. She had been planning this day for 7 years. Not metaphorically. Literally. She had a Pinterest board with 412 pins. She had interviewed 11 wedding planners and fired 3 of them. She had driven to this venue on a Tuesday morning 2 years ago, stood in the center of the empty ballroom, looked up at that chandelier, and said, out loud to no one, "This is it. This is the one." And she got it. She paid $85,000 to make it happen. Every detail was exactly as she had imagined. For exactly 42 minutes. Then the music stopped. Not faded. Not slowed down into a graceful pause. Stopped. Mid-song. Like someone had yanked a plug from the wall. The lights came up. Bright. Flat. The kind of light you only see when a venue is being cleaned at 2 in the morning. That harsh, unflattering, fluorescent light that makes everyone look tired. 150 guests froze. Mid-conversation. Mid-bite. Mid-dance. Every single person in that ballroom went still at the exact same moment, the way a school of fish moves when something disturbs the water. And then a man walked to the microphone. Not the DJ. Not the MC. Not the band leader. Not the wedding coordinator. Not anyone on Brianna Collins's carefully curated vendor list. He was holding a single sheet of paper. He cleared his throat. "My name is Mike Eaves," he said. "I am the general manager of this property. I have been asked by the owner of this facility to read a statement." Brianna stood up from the sweetheart table. Her mouth was already open. She had not given anyone permission to speak. "Effective immediately," Mike continued. "The event contract for this evening's reception is terminated. All remaining catering, music, bar, and vendor services will cease within the next 15 minutes. The deposit of $85,000 is forfeited in full under Section 12 of the signed venue agreement. Conduct unbecoming and harassment of property personnel." He folded the paper in half. Set it on the podium. Looked up. "I apologize to the guests for the disruption. The exits are to your left and your right. Thank you for your understanding." 150 people turned and looked at the bride. Derek, her husband of 42 minutes, looked at the bride. Her mother, at table 6, put down her champagne glass and looked at the bride. Brianna Collins stood at the sweetheart table in an $8,000 gown, and she had absolutely no idea what she had done. She had met the owner of this building exactly 42 minutes ago, and she had made the worst decision of her life. But before I tell you what that decision was, and before I tell you who that man in the plain clothes actually was, I need you to understand something. This story did not start in that ballroom. It started long before Brianna Collins ever signed that venue contract. It started with a man who built something from nothing. And it started with a woman who never learned the difference between wealth and worth. Let me take you back to where it all began. Hello, and welcome to her drama tales. If you believe that how you treat the person who can do absolutely nothing for you says everything about who you truly are, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of the drama. Because today's story is about a bride who had everything. The venue, the flowers, the guests, the dress, the man, everything except the one thing that actually matters. Character. Stay with me, because this one is going to leave a mark. Ryan Eaves was born in Birmingham, Alabama, in 1951, to a man who spent 32 years cleaning office buildings for a living. His father, Curtis Eaves, left for work before sunrise and came home after dark. Every day, Monday through Saturday. He wore the same gray uniform for 15 years. He never complained about it. He told Ryan, and this was the sentence Ryan carried with him his entire life. He said, "The man who cleans the building and the man who owns the building both need the same thing, son. They both need the building to stand. Never forget that." Ryan did not forget. He left Birmingham at 19 with $300 in his pocket and a hunger that had nothing to do with food. He worked construction in Atlanta. Concrete. Framing. Roofing in the July heat. He learned every part of building something from the ground up. Not from a textbook, from his hands. He worked for other people for 12 years. Then he stopped. At 31, Ryan Eaves started his own small construction company with 4 employees, a used pickup truck, and a reputation for finishing every job on time and never cutting corners. In Atlanta's construction market of the early 1980s, that reputation was worth more than capital. He built his first commercial property at 43. A small mixed-use building in Midtown, 3 retail units on the ground floor, for apartments above it. He has never sold that building. He still owns it today. Over the next 22 years, Ryan quietly and methodically built a real estate holding company that most people in Atlanta had never heard of. Not because it was small, because Ryan Eaves did not believe in press releases. He owned 14 properties by the time Brianna Collins signed her venue contract. Hotels, office complexes, event spaces, and the crown jewel of his portfolio, the Grandeur at Peachtree, a venue he built from a vacant lot in Buckhead in 2002 with his own construction team. He never changed how he dressed. He still drove a pickup truck. He had his assistant call him Ryan, not Mr. Eaves, not Sir Raymond. There is a story people who worked for him told, usually quietly, usually to new hires. During the first year of COVID, when the city shut down and small businesses across Atlanta began to collapse, Ryan personally reviewed every commercial tenant in his portfolio who had missed rent. Not to issue notices, to make decisions. There was a Jamaican restaurant on the ground floor of his Midtown building. The Campbells, a husband and wife who had run that restaurant for 11 years. They had missed 3 months. They had 2 employees they refused to let go. They were burning through savings. Ryan did not call them. He did not have his attorney send a letter. One Tuesday morning, an envelope appeared under the door of that restaurant. Inside it was a single handwritten note and a document. The note said, "You feed this neighborhood. This neighborhood needs you. The next 12 months are taken care of. Keep your people. Raymond." The document was a signed rent waiver. 12 months. No conditions. He told no one. He expected nothing. That is who Ryan Eaves was. And on a Saturday afternoon in September, he drove himself to the Grandeur at Peachtree to check on a plumbing issue his venue manager had flagged that morning. A pressure problem in the main ballroom bathroom that could become a problem during a large event. He was wearing a canvas jacket, dark slacks, and work boots. He was not dressed for a wedding. He was not there for the wedding. He was there because it was his building, and something in it needed attention. Brianna Collins was 29 years old, and her life, from the outside, was immaculate. She had 82,000 Instagram followers. She posted every day. The aesthetic was warm neutrals, intentional luxury, the kind of life that looked effortless and cost a fortune to maintain. Her fiancé, Derek Washington, came from one of Atlanta's established families. His father ran a regional insurance group. His mother sat on 3 nonprofit boards. They had paid for the wedding, all of it, because Derek's mother, Patricia, believed strongly that a wedding was a family statement, and Patricia Washington did not make small statements. Brianna had grown up in a working-class household in Decatur. She never talked about it. On her social media, her origins did not exist. There was only the current version, the polished, curated, upward-moving Brianna, and the future version, which was even better. People who worked with Brianna described her the same way, always. Professional. Precise. But. There was always a but. The florist who spent 3 nights straight assembling the 12-foot floral arrangements for the reception described it this way. She never said thank you. Not once. Not to me, not to my assistants. She walked through the room checking everything like she was inspecting a hotel room, and when it was right, she just moved on. When something was 1 centimeter off, she stopped and stared at us until we fixed it. The catering coordinator said she was professional, but she talked to my servers like they were furniture. Not rude, exactly. Just absent. Like they weren't fully people to her. The wedding photographer said she was the most organized bride he had ever worked with. And the least warm. She smiled for every photo, and the second the camera went down, the smile went with it. Brianna Collins did not see the people who served her. She saw the service. She saw the event. The image. The moment. She did not see the hands that built it. And on a Saturday afternoon in September, when an old man in a canvas jacket walked through the main entrance of the Grandeur at Peachtree during cocktail hour, she did not see a building owner. She did not see a man who had poured 22 years of his life into the floor she was standing on. She saw a problem. Ryan Eaves entered the main ballroom at 4:47 in the afternoon. Cocktail hour was in full swing. Guests were gathered in clusters near the bar, near the windows, near the entrance to the main hall. The music was soft. The light was golden. Everything was exactly as it had been designed to be. Ryan moved quietly along the left wall, looking for Mike, his general manager. Mike had texted him earlier. Plumbing issue flagged, staff monitoring it, but Ryan liked to see things himself. He had built this building. He trusted his own eyes. He nodded at a passing server. The server nodded back. He paused to look up at the chandelier. Still perfect, still level, still every bit as good as the day he had it installed. Brianna Collins saw him before he took 3 steps into the room. She was standing near the entrance to the hall, talking to her maid of honor, when she clocked him. Old man. Plain clothes. Canvas jacket. Work boots. No boutonniere, no gift bag, no name tag. Not on her list. She stopped talking mid-sentence. She watched him cross toward a passing server. Before the server could lift a tray in Raymond's direction, Brianna stepped forward and put a hand on the server's arm. She did not raise her voice. She spoke quietly, the way people speak when they want to make something clear without making a scene. "Don't serve that man," she said. "I don't know how he got in here, but he is not a guest." The server nodded once and moved on. 2 of Brianna's bridesmaids were close enough to hear it. They said nothing. They looked at Raymond. Then they looked away. Ryan hadn't heard a word of it. He was looking up at the wall sconces on the far side of the room, checking the lighting levels his venue manager had adjusted last week. That was step 1. Quiet. Efficient. Invisible to Raymond. Witnessed by enough people to matter. 3 minutes later, Ryan spotted the wedding coordinator, a woman named Dana who worked the venue's preferred vendor list, and approached her near the hallway entrance. "Excuse me, is Mike around? I need to get into the utility corridor off the main bathrooms." Dana recognized him immediately. She had worked this venue for 6 years. She opened her mouth to respond. She didn't get the chance. Brianna Collins stepped in front of her. She had been watching Ryan from the moment he moved toward the staff. She had not liked the way Dana's expression shifted when she saw him. That small, almost imperceptible acknowledgement that passed between them. Brianna did not lower her voice this time. "Excuse me, who exactly are you here for? Because I know every single guest on my list, and you are not on it." Ryan looked at her. Calm. Patient. The same expression he wore when a contractor told him something was going to take longer than the timeline. He had spent 50 years not being rattled by other people's urgency. "I'm not a guest, ma'am. I'm the..." She cut him off. "I don't care. This is a private event. Whatever you're selling, whatever you're delivering, you need to speak to the loading dock entrance on the side of the building." Ryan paused. He looked at Dana. Dana's expression had gone very careful. He tried again. "Ma'am, I'm not a vendor. I'm security." She said it before he finished the sentence. Not a shout. A command. The same tone she used to summon a server. Then she turned to her bridesmaids. She did not lower her voice. "This is exactly why you vet your vendor list. This is exactly why you have a security protocol." She paused. "Poverty is contagious," she said with a small, practiced laugh. The bridesmaids laughed. 2 of them. The third looked at the floor. The guests standing nearby went quiet. Not all of them heard the words. All of them felt the temperature drop. Ryan Eaves said nothing. He didn't look away. He didn't look embarrassed. He just waited. That was step 2. Public. Witnessed. Recorded on a camera none of them had noticed. The wedding videographer, positioned at the far corner of the room, whose job was to capture every spontaneous moment of the reception. He had been filming for 4 minutes. 2 security guards appeared within 90 seconds. Ryan raised both hands. Open. Patient. He had done nothing wrong, and he did not intend to make this worse. "I'm happy to step outside," he said. That should have been the end of it. Brianna Collins was not finished. "Make sure he goes all the way out. Not the lobby. Outside." She followed them. Across the cocktail floor. Through the entrance doors. To the threshold of the ballroom itself. She stood there with her arms crossed and watched to ensure it was done. In her agitation, she knocked a $60 floral arrangement off a cocktail table as she passed it. She did not notice. She did not look back. The photographer caught it. The videographer caught all of it. As security guided Ryan toward the main entrance, Ryan paused at the door. He turned to the nearest guard. A young man named Terrence who had worked this venue for 3 years. Terrence knew exactly who Ryan Eaves was. Every member of the venue's staff knew. Ryan said one sentence. Quietly. To Terrence. "Call Mike. Tell him I'll be in my truck." Terrence nodded once. His face did not change, but something behind his eyes did. That was step 3. And the moment Ryan Eaves walked through those doors, the 42-minute clock started. We'll come back to that sentence in a moment. Because that quiet instruction, 8 words, given to a security guard at a side entrance, was the beginning of the end of Brianna Collins's perfect day. Let me tell you what Brianna Collins did not know. She did not know that the Grandeur at Peachtree was not merely a venue she had rented. It was a building that Ryan Eaves had personally designed, financed, and built in 2002 using his own construction company and a vision he had been carrying for a decade. He had broken ground on a vacant, overgrown lot in Buckhead that everyone else considered too expensive, too complicated, too much risk for the return. Ryan saw it differently. He always did. 22 years later, the Grandeur at Peachtree was the most requested private event venue in Atlanta. A 2-year waiting list. Corporate galas, charity events, society weddings. Every booking manually reviewed and approved. Ryan Eaves had personally approved Brianna Collins's booking 8 months ago. He had never met her. He did not need to. He owned the building. That was the full extent of the relationship. His son Mike Eaves, 44 years old, Columbia MBA, who had worked in commercial real estate for 15 years before joining his father's company as general manager, had been in his office on the 2nd floor of the venue complex when the call from Terrence came in. Mike already knew something had happened. He had seen it from the 2nd floor window. He had watched his father walk across the parking lot to his truck. His phone rang before Terrence's message even came through. It was Raymond. The conversation lasted 90 seconds. A guest had me removed, Ryan said. No emotion in his voice. Just information. The bride? Mike asked. Yes. Silence for 3 seconds. What do you want to do, Dad? Ryan exhaled slowly. Mike could hear him thinking in the pause. Not angry, not reactive. Ryan Eaves did not make emotional decisions. He made considered ones. What does the contract say? Mike knew the contract by memory. He had reviewed it himself when the booking came through. Section 12 was explicit. Any conduct that endangered, harassed, or showed deliberate disrespect toward property owners or their representatives was grounds for immediate termination without refund. Section 12 covers it. Mike said, "Then that's what we do." That was the entire conversation. No raised voice. No speech about respect. No announcement of who he was or what she had done to the wrong man. Ryan Eaves did not explain himself to people who had already made their decision about him. He let the building speak. Mike sat at his desk for 60 seconds after the call ended. Then he picked up his office phone and called the venue coordinator. "Dana, I need you to pull the sound, lights, and catering on Ballroom A. Effective in 20 minutes. Owner's order." Dana had been in this industry for 15 years. She had never received that call before. "The reception is in progress," she said. "I know," Mike said. He drafted the statement himself. 2 paragraphs. Clean. Official. No names except his own. He printed it on venue letterhead, walked down the stairs, and entered the ballroom. He did not enjoy what he was about to do. But Ryan had built this company on a simple principle: that the people who worked in his buildings, who cleaned them and managed them and served the guests, deserved to be treated with dignity. And when that principle was violated, there was only one response. You let the building speak. Meanwhile, in the parking lot, Ryan Eaves sat in his pickup truck and checked his email. He had a meeting on Monday about a development project in Midtown. He needed to review the projections. He did not watch what happened next. He had already made his decision. There was nothing left to see. At 5:29 in the afternoon, 42 minutes into Brianna Collins's reception, the music stopped. Not faded. Stopped. The lights came up. 150 guests froze. Mike Eaves walked to the microphone with a single sheet of venue letterhead. He introduced himself. He read the statement. He set the paper down. And then he was done. He did not elaborate. He did not explain. He did not look at Brianna. He simply delivered the information and stepped back from the mic. The room did not move. Then, slowly, terribly, 350 people turned and looked at the bride. Brianna Collins was standing at the sweetheart table. Her champagne glass was in her hand. Her mouth was open, but no sound was coming out. She was doing something her brain had never had to do before. She was running backward through the last 42 minutes, searching for what she had done to cause this. She got there in about 4 seconds. The old man. The canvas jacket. The security guards. The words she had said. Out loud. In front of her guests. Poverty is contagious. Derek stood up slowly from the sweetheart table. He looked at his bride. His face was not angry. It was something much worse than angry. It was blank. At table 4, Derek's mother Patricia, who had written the check for every dollar of this event, set down her champagne glass with a precise, measured click against the tablecloth. She did not look at Brianna. She looked at her husband. A single look. The kind of look a marriage of 31 years produces. A look that is an entire conversation in less than a second. Her husband looked back at her and gave the smallest nod. The florist began to quietly pack her table runners. The caterers began to clear. The bartender started capping bottles. The DJ, who had been warned by Mike 2 minutes earlier, began unplugging cables with the careful, deliberate movements of a man who has been told not to make this worse. Brianna finally moved. She walked toward Mike. Her voice was controlled. Tight. There has been a mistake, she said. There hasn't. Mike said. I need to speak to the owner. He's not available. I need to know who the owner is. Mike looked at her for one long, steady moment. You met him about an hour ago, he said. And then he walked toward the service entrance, because his job was done. Brianna Collins stood in the center of her wedding reception, in an $8,000 gown, surrounded by flowers she couldn't smell anymore and a chandelier she couldn't see anymore, and she understood, with the terrible clarity that only comes when it is too late, exactly what she had done. The man in the canvas jacket. He had owned everything. The floor under her feet. The chandelier above her head. The building she had paid $85,000 to use for one evening. He had owned all of it, and she had thrown him out. The Grandeur at Peachtree cleared 150 guests in under 20 minutes. Not chaotically, quietly, the way a very well-run venue handles an unprecedented situation, with efficiency and professionalism, because this building had been built by a man who took pride in how it operated under every circumstance, even this one. Especially this one. Brianna and Derek Washington stood in the center of the empty ballroom as the last vendor cart rolled through the service doors. The flowers were still there. The centerpieces were still there. The chandelier was still on. But the food was gone. The music was gone. The guests were gone. The $85,000, the deposit that had been paid 8 months ago to secure this exact night, was gone. The wedding was over. On the most photographed night of her life. In the building she had thrown the owner out of. Derek's mother Patricia did not say goodbye to Brianna when she left. She hugged her son for a long time. She said something to him that no one else in the room heard. Then she put on her coat and walked out with her husband without looking back. The drive to Derek's parents' house that night lasted 11 minutes and was silent for all 11 of them. His father said quietly as they pulled into the driveway, "We need to talk about the annulment." Meanwhile, the wedding videographer, a 26-year-old named Jordan who had been shooting events for 3 years and had never had a reception end like this, had 6 uninterrupted minutes of footage. The cocktail hour. The moment Brianna told the server not to serve the old man. The confrontation in the hallway. The words, "Poverty is contagious," caught clean on audio. The security escort. The floral arrangement knocked over. The expression on Raymond's face as he was walked out. Patient, unbothered, completely dignified. Jordan spent 40 minutes that night wondering what to do with that footage. Then he posted it. He titled it, "A bride had a man removed from her wedding." He owned the building. By midnight it had 40,000 views. By Sunday morning it had 700,000. By Monday, her Instagram account had comments turned off. The wedding hashtag she had created, the one she had been building toward for 7 years, had become a different kind of story entirely. One she had not planned. Her 82,000 followers became a much more complicated number. Sponsorship partners began to go quiet. Emails stopped being returned. A kitchenware brand that had agreed to feature her in their fall campaign sent a polite, brief note. The note said they were going in a different direction. In his truck in the parking lot, Ryan Eaves had reviewed his midtown projections, responded to 2 emails, and driven home before the statement was even finished being read. He did not watch the footage when it went viral. He did not issue a statement. He did not need to. The building had spoken. He had built it for exactly that purpose. To outlast anyone who thought that what you owned was more important than how you treated the people around you. Ryan Eaves understood something that Brianna Collins had never been taught. The building doesn't care who you're dressed as. It doesn't care how many followers you have, or how long you spent on Pinterest, or how much you paid for the flowers. The building just stands there. And one day, usually the day you least expect it, it tells the truth about you. How you treat someone who cannot benefit you is your true character. And your true character always finds its way into the light.